here with our midweek analysis, and no more games here at Folsom Field where we're shooting this video, but 2 more games on the road starting out in Pullman. We've asked Coach Prime and some of the players and even Nick Williams about this matchup of going against Washington State, and kind of the common theme is you got to get after Cameron Ward, and you look at that team and there's no question he's the strength of it. We'll go further into that matchup, but we did get a chance to talk about that edge group that's going to be so key.
Yeah, and they've been good at times, especially Jordan Dominick this season has been really good. And we've seen some guys, flash at times. Arden Walker, both Jordan Dominick and Nick Williams were very highly complimentary of Arden Walker being maybe that next guy to take the mantle when Jordan is done this year. Kyrie Mans has had some good play at times too, and D.V. Harris. So yeah, that group is key though. I mean, they've got to play really well on Friday night.
There was a guy, Taj McCoy, that earned a lot of praise during preseason camp, and it makes sense. He's a true freshman, and you start to get in against these tougher teams, and you go with the guys that have the experience, the SEC experience from Jordan Dominick and Arden Walker. But Taj McCoy is a piece that I'm really anxious, and we're not there yet, but that's one of the main guys during spring ball that I'm going to keep an eye on.
Yeah, that and Arden Walker, based on especially what we're hearing from Jordan and Coach Williams today, is that they said Arden's ready to take that next step, and he's a guy that when I talked to him when he first committed here, he was excited. He said, "Hey, I feel like I'm just getting into my own now because it's such a tough position to play early in your career." We're seeing that with Taj McCoy. Arden Walker said it's a tough one to play, as a young player. And we've seen Arden Walker now. He doesn't get a ton of snaps, but when he gets in there, he makes an impact at times. And so I'm looking forward to seeing him as well.
With Jordan Dominick, going back to him, there were high expectations with him. He's one of the guys that's lived up to him. Yeah. He's played some really good football this year, and I know that one of his keys coming into the season was to get a little bit better in run support in terms of his NFL hopes. It's not like he's leading this team in tackles or anything, but there's been some moments where he's shown some flashes in that part of the game as well. Yeah. I don't think it's a surefire thing that he's a draft pick at this point, but he's a guy through that process will have a chance to work his way into the draft.
Yeah, I think so. And, he's one of the better edge guys we've seen over the last several years. Obviously Carson Wells was really good here a few years ago. It's only a couple years ago, but he's the best one since Carson Wells at least. But, really probably since Jimmy Gilbert, yeah. I'd probably put Carson Wells and Jordan Dominick as the 2 top edge guys we've seen over the last several years. And so he's played really well. He's got better numbers through 10 games than he even had last year at Arkansas, when he was one of the leaders in the conference in sacks. And so, you're right. He's lived up to expectations. Not a ton of the guys have, but he has.
Shakeups on offense, that's already taken place. Yeah. Defensively, we've seen enough improvement that I think you want as much continuity going forward with that staff, with that group of players. I mentioned that we talked to Nick Williams, and he's been an impressive young coach in this program, and he talked about what he's learned, and he said that you really got to go back to the basics with these guys, and his fire, his passion is on display every time you see clips from practice. I've mentioned that's the type of coach that I want to play for, that is, you always know where you stand with Nick Williams, and he brings that youthful energy, which seems to be a really good compliment to Sal Sanzeri on that defensive front. And so, again, I think it's going to be key for them. You've made some strides defensively, but you're really far from where you want to be ultimately. Yeah. Keep that continuity, and Nick Williams kind of bucked back a little bit. He coaches the Bucks. That's no pun intended there. He kind of bucked back a little bit on the notion that this is a complex defense, but we've heard that from a lot of guys that this is a complex defense.
Yeah, and he's a guy too that you have to understand. When you watch some of the well-off videos, he loves breaking down film. And loves that part of the game. And so maybe for him it's not that complicated because of how much he's studied the game. But I think that's one of the things that makes him a strong coach, is that he has studied the game so much and knows it so well. And I agree with you on the continuity. Throughout this tough season, I don't know how many times I've heard they need to get rid of Charles Kelly. That's one of the last moves I would make. I think it's so tough a first-year defensive coordinator and first-year defense to be really good. And I think one of the worst things for Colorado would be to start over with that defense with a new coordinator this next year. I'm excited to see what Charles Kelly and this group does next year when you have most of these guys back. I mean, you lose Leonard Payne, you lose Jordan Dominick, Roderick Ward. I'm missing anybody? There's a couple other guys that kind of role player guys. But as far as the key, you get almost everybody back, and so I'm looking forward to that. And I think Nick Williams is a big part of that.
You do have a good core, and not to go too far into coach speak here, but it is true when they have those big when they give up those big plays, when the other team gets a big play against them, it is often assignment errors. Right. And so if you can have that continuity and these guys know the system better next year, I would expect you're going to see it more cases like we did a couple weeks in a row where they hold the opponent under 30 points. And that's kind of the magic number when you go forward in college football. If you're keeping teams under 30 consistently, you should be having success.
Yeah, and we saw the other day Jonah Coleman from Arizona had two huge runs, I think 49 and 54, something like that, and then two more late in the game over 20. You get that continuity, and all of a sudden, instead of 4 of those big runs, Jonah Coleman's that type of running back gets 1, right? And you stop some of those big plays. And so that's where I'm looking forward to this defense next year. I think that's where some of the biggest strides can be made is defensively on this team.
All right, like we said, the edge group is going to be key for Colorado this Friday. We'll be back tomorrow to preview that matchup.